afternoon of celebrities. I'd like to bring up a couple of people who, oh, there you are. Make sure they're still here. Bring up a couple of people who are certainly a treasure to our community. And I happen to know that they just celebrated their 76th anniversary. So they have us all beat by a few years. But it's just such a pleasure every time I get to talk to them. And it's a pleasure to hear them speak, as you will see in a minute. So please welcome Don and Joan Boyer.
I'm so glad you're all here to enjoy that and to follow that man telling you all those things. It's wonderful. It really is. Can you hear me? Without talking? Okay. We're so happy. This is my husband, Don.
Everybody grab it.
We're really happy to be here. It's a double, triple happiness because the girls, the cousins, we loved and knew the McGuire Sisters. We knew them from my schooling because Phyllis and I graduated together. And 49ers, that's what we were, a parent for the 49ers. And the McGuires are something that we have thought about a lot and compared them with the girls, you know. But I did want to tell you that as I read my note and can see, the Boyer Sisters were grads of Miamisburg School too. And Linda and Sharon and Judy were rather shy, and they were small. And we'd have big dinners at Grandma's farmhouse, and they were very shy about that. But when they got to singing, it brought out everything. They just bloomed like you wouldn't believe. And we were there when they were born. We knew them all through, and we could see the difference from the time they were small till the time they got big. We were so proud of them, so proud that they did what they did. And that's the same with Mrs. McGuire. She said the same. She said, "Oh, I'm so proud of my girls. They started singing in church, and we loved that. We loved that they went on and progressed as they did. And parents were proud. We know Betty and Webb were so proud of the girls, as was Bill when he got to that point that they sang and they did all those songs out where people noticed them, right? And on Sunday evenings sometimes we would see the girls walk into their first church. They had a church on Kircher Street that they had long before the big one down on Heineke, and they would be gaily walking out to do their singing and practicing and all. And then the McGuires moved to Miamisburg, and Phyllis, she joined the choir and the chorus, and she even did intramural basketball and intramural volleyball, and even joined in the plays that we had. So she was an all-around person. She was a lot of fun. And one day she borrowed her boyfriend's red car. Was a red Cadillac convertible, and she drove the girls around town. And she thought that was wonderful. She said, "Oh, look what we can do," you know. So, as I said, she was a fun person and an all-round person. Chris and Dorothy also graduated but they graduated from Middletown, but they were just a little older. Now, not that much, but a little older than we were. So, and around our 50th anniversary, we got a note from her, our anniversary from graduating from high school. And she wrote and she said, "Can't be there, I'm doing a show in New York." But she said, "Tell everyone hello." So she did think of us and didn't just forget, as she was doing things. So that is our story.
I had a part in there somewhere. But I do want to thank the Miamisburg Historical Association for everything they do. They put on a lot of good recognitions and so forth. And if you get a chance, come down and visit on their open houses and sign up, be a member, get involved. Thank you.
If you haven't had a chance yet to see the display behind this little wall here, it's really, really great display with some stuff from the Boyer Sisters and also the McGuire Sisters, but I don't know whoever did that. It's fabulous. It's a wonderful job. I am Linda Hart Wheeler. I graduated with Linda in 1968. I'll just tell you that Linda was beautiful, courageous, kind-hearted, sweet, thoughtful, caring, and very adventurous, and probably the best person I've ever known. And she also had a giggle that would not quit. When I met her, we were in the 5th grade in Mound School. Linda sat in one row, I sat in the next. She was one seat ahead of me, and Miss Rogers, our teacher, one day asked a question, and being the studious little kids we were, we both eagerly raised our hands, and Miss Rogers said, "Linda." And I didn't know if she meant me, and Linda didn't know if she meant her, and Linda turned around, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she giggled, and I giggled, and that was it. We were different people, totally different people. Linda was a bit of an old soul. She loved Doris Day. She was in a lot of the class plays. She had the lead in Our Town. She was into journalism and French. I loved Elvis, and I was into shorthand and Spanish. But that didn't matter. We had those giggles in common. I spent a lot of time at the Boyers' house, and they were a tremendously, wonderfully sweet family. I remember spending so many sleepovers in Linda's basement, and we would be, I'm sure, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning giggling, and we would hear footsteps come across the floor. And Mrs. Boyer would open the door, and it was like June Cleaver. "Now, girls, it's getting rather late. Please be quiet." And we'd say, "Yes, ma'am." And let's listen to the steps go back across the ceiling, and then giggles. We just dissolved into more giggles. The Midwestern Hayride, all I knew was Linda was the one in the middle. Sharon and Judy, to me, I told Linda, I can't tell your sisters apart. They look so much alike, I don't know who's who. But as I grew older and they grew older, I was like, why did I ever think they looked alike? They don't look anything alike. I remember one time we were going on, I was riding with the Hayride cast on a bus to a performance. I think they were going to a fair somewhere. And they were trying to rehearse a song for the upcoming performance, but they didn't have a copy of the words. So I'm sitting there and I thought, do you have a tape that you could play the song? Which they did. So I got out my trusty shorthand and I took the notes or the words down in shorthand and quickly transcribed them and gave them a copy of the lyrics so they could practice and rehearse. So I was kind of a member of the Hayride cast that day. As teenagers, we supported each other. We went through everything together, teenage heartbreaks. We went cruising at Frisch's. That was our place to be. And Linda had her car, a little convertible that she called Missy Mustang. I had my car, a 1964 Ford that I bought from her boyfriend who was studying to be an undertaker, and for like $500. And when I went over 45 miles an hour, the hood popped up. And that was the Blue Bomber. And that was, she had Missy Mustang, I had the Blue Bomber. We were so cool that summer. We had our convertible cars. After graduation, Linda was working at Kroger's. I was going to Wright State to working on a teacher's degree. And we came across in 1971 the summer that we called the summer of 71. We were both single, we were free to do whatever we wanted, and we decided, we've got the summer coming up. We could really have a lot of fun this summer. But we might get tired of each other, so let's just make a pact. We're good enough friends, we can be honest with each other. And if we have a day where, I just don't want to see your face today, we would be able to say that to each other. And it never happened. The entire summer we went swimming, we played tennis, we went camping, we went to Frisch's sometimes twice a day. We spent every day together, and we always referred to it as the summer of 71. At this time, we're getting older. Linda gets married, I get married. She has 3 children, I have 3 children. And we went from those carefree days of young adulthood to being moms. Excuse me. And we play days with our kids and meeting other mothers for dinner maybe once a month to talk about things. And I remember being at Frisch's again and having a 2 or 3 hour dinner with all the other mothers, and everybody decided, okay, it's time to get home. We've got children, need to go to bed. And we went outside to say our goodbyes, and an hour later we were still talking and decided, well, maybe we'll go in for dessert. So we went back into the restaurant and had dessert. This time Linda had moved to Michigan, which was really a hard thing for her. She loved Miamisburg. She was a Miamisburg girl, and it was hard for her to leave. Her husband's job took her to Alpena, Michigan, which is a beautiful place, and Linda made a wonderful life there, but she always missed Miamisburg. Linda would tell you that we never had any disagreements, we never had any arguments. There were 2. I will tell you about them. The first one was I went to visit her at Long Lake, which is the lake right behind her house, and she had me out in a paddle boat, and I was terrified. I couldn't swim, she knew this, and she started to rock the boat, and I'm like, stop, don't do that, because I'm terrified. She giggled and rocked it more. And I was like, don't, I really mean don't. And she wouldn't stop, she kept rocking the boat. And I said, it's gotta be 50 feet deep out here. And she's like, you goofball, it's 2 feet deep. You can stand up if you fall out of the boat. After her bone marrow transplant, we went to Myrtle Beach and spent a week. And we had gone out to dinner one night, and we were in a little shop after dinner, and she passed me and started giggling. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she couldn't tell me. She was giggling so hard she couldn't tell me. And I was like, what? What's wrong? And she finally pointed to my shoe, and I had toilet paper stuck to the bottom of my shoe. And I'd been through the entire town of Myrtle Beach and everything with toilet paper on my shoe. The best times for us during those years when our kids were little would be 11 o'clock at night when all the kids were in bed. She would be at her sink, I'd be at my sink, the phone scrunched up, and we would be telling each other the events of the day and what had happened and what was going to go on tomorrow. And somebody's husband would walk by and say, what are you two talking about? What do you possibly have to say to each other? Well, duh, there were always things that we had to say to each other. When Linda was in Alpena, she started her photography business, Recollections Photography. And she was known for taking pictures of sports teams, senior pictures, and a lot of nature photography. I have a framed print of one of her nature studies in my bedroom, and I love it. At this time, we were later get divorced, so we supported each other through that. And in 1999, Linda was diagnosed with leukemia, and then the work began. She had work to do, and Miamisburg had work to do, and boy, did they do it. Folks here, fellow classmates, church members, family, and friends, we all united for the love of Linda. And our support group was intentioned to provide support for her emotionally and financially. If we could help with bills that her insurance wouldn't pay, travel expenses for her children if they needed to go from Alpena down to Detroit where Linda's sister lived and she was receiving treatment. It was a wonderful group of people, and I see people here today that were part of that group, so it was a wonderful supportive group. We did a lot of fundraisers. We solicited donations from the community. We had blood and bone marrow drives. I think we added about 300 bone marrow donors to the blood bank's list. We had an auction, we had a breakfast, we had a brunch, we sold t-shirts, I still have mine. Some of the Celebrities from WLW recorded. Dave McCoy, Colleen Sharp, Bob Braun, Rob Ryder produced a song for Linda, For the Love of Linda, and that was played on local airways here. So if you haven't seen yet, there's a picture over there of our support group, and that was just a small group. We had so many classmates and people in town that reached out to do whatever we asked, or helped with bagged groceries in Germantown, whatever, but it was something we wanted to do for the love of Linda. And she never forgot Miamisburg, and Miamisburg did not forget her. So thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Dick Fultz. Oh, right here in front.
I can do that, project. Willie McGuire and my father were brother and sister. And having famous people in the family that you see all the time is, I found out, very different than being a fan. You have an entirely different perspective. And so I have some stories, but I wanted to start with their mother, Lily McGuire. Lily was born in a log cabin in eastern Kentucky, literally a log cabin, no family homestead. And she had 6 brothers, and she was in the middle. My dad was the youngest. And so she, after going through the Depression and all that, she was 15 years old and married, which was not uncommon. But for a farm girl, at that day and age, she could manage a family, she could manage a business, she was tough, she had all those brothers, and she could hold her own with all of them. So she was a strong lady at 15 years old. And she, not long after that, married H. McGuire. And music was in the family. They were both musicians, and my parents both musicians. And we would get together and play music a lot. And so the music was just a part of the family. And of course, then when Lily became a pastor, I believe that's why they moved to Miamisburg. I'm not quite sure. But some of you know far more detailed history than I do, because, but anyway, after she came here and pastored the church, and of course the girls started singing, probably in Middletown, but then carried on here. And the first memory I have of the 3 of them together was when they were returning from that show in Arthur Garfield. And my father had a church in a small town in Pennsylvania, mountaintop town, and they stopped there on the way home. And the small town had never seen anything like this. First, this big Buick rolls up, and out come these 3 tall, slender ladies. They're long, skinny black dresses, black gloves up to here. I mean, they're from the 30s and 40s style, you know, and they had this thing, you could never be too skinny or too rich. Well, they were skinny. They weren't rich, they were skinny. And, but I had never heard them sing or anything like that at that time. I was about this tall, but I was maybe 7 years old. But I remember those dresses in that big Buick that they came up in. The one thing that, yes, they had talent. And like I said, this is family, and there's a lot of music in the family. They had talent, but from their mother and father, they got an incredible work ethic. It's one thing to have talent, but it's another thing to really develop it. And that is something they early on started to really develop not only their music, but the clothes, the makeup, even the way that you would walk across the stage. Because long skinny dresses were the style. And you didn't want to walk like Tim Conway, you know. And so they worked to develop a way to walk across the stage that looked like they were gliding in these dresses, because they rarely wore big, I don't know what you call them, big puffy dresses. They were usually in tall slender dresses. But so they worked very hard at that. Every aspect of the music, and if any of you have ever been in a choir, how many of you been in a choir? Okay. And if it's a choir where you are singing full out, 4 parts, you know, like a church choir or any kind of choir, where after 2 hours of singing, you're sweating. That's work. When you're going full out, that is work. Well, they were doing this day after day after day after day to perfect everything they did. Everything you saw, every word they said, it was all, had to be perfect. They were very picky. Their mother would tell them if they weren't. It was, well, I'll get to that, but we were very close. But they polished everything they did. And in our family, there's a strong history of storytelling, because that was the way they entertained each other. No radio, no TV, in a depression. And I would have to call it competitive storytelling. The first person didn't have a chance. And they would make up poems, and you had to make up the next line. And they would pass this around. This is how they entertained themselves. And they all had, she and all her brothers had a crazy sense of humor. And so sometimes in these stories, they might even be true. So that was, but she passed this on to the girls, and you probably remember a lot of the songs were story songs. There weren't a lot of repetition, which is popular now, but each song was a little story. And so they came by that, you know, straight out of the family. They had been 3 sisters. They had near identical voices. And that made a unique sound of extremely close harmony. And if some of the opening of Sincerely and some of those songs, you hear that really, really close harmony. And it made their sound unique, and that's something that only sisters can do. Brothers, not so much, I don't think so. But sisters, because we've got famous sisters, but we don't have any famous brothers around here, unless it was someone that got in trouble or something. But, so they had, in the entrance of Lily's house down there on Main Street, was a wall of all the pictures of all those presidents, celebrities, and all that they had met, and gold records, and it was quite a wall. But being family, it wasn't events or dates or times, and I don't have that kind of knowledge of it. But it was every few weeks. We saw Lily every week. I mean, she was just family, and the girls were just family. And so it wasn't like there was a big event, and we all took notice of it. It was just going on all our lives. And so we weren't regular kind of fans. I'll put it that way. Now, for many, many years in Vegas, they were, I had 20-some years, they were appearing in several shows a week. And they were the highest paid celebrities ever in Vegas for 15, 20 years that they appeared. And that is a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And, but like I said, they had the work ethic to back it up. They would put in the hours and the work and the training, and you just don't walk out there and do it. You practice. Anybody who has been professional in entertaining or anything realize it is work. There's a lot of work behind it, and you just see the end result on the stage. So they became very wealthy. I will start with Chris. Chris had a 4-star restaurant in New York City. Now this is later on in life, and but unfortunately, as we heard, she had a string of 1-star husbands. And Lily told me one morning when we were having breakfast that she had to put extra leaves in the family Bible just to keep the list of all of them. She'd run out of spaces for Chris. But I would, after Lily's husband, Ace, died, and I would take care of her place, and I took care of it for several years, and she would fix me breakfast. I'd go Saturday morning and take care of the place. And we would sit and talk, sometimes for hours. And Lily was not only a remarkable preacher and speaker, but she had an incredible memory. She was a powerful speaker. And she had a crazy sense of humor. And we would spend hours listening. She would tell me the stories, what was going on with the girls, and her funny stories. And she had a great spiritual influence on me also, which I am very grateful for. I loved her dearly. She was a wonderful lady. And she told me about, I'm pretty sure it was Chris, who was going someplace. Well, the girls were all tall and skinny. Well, later in the 60s, skinny wasn't it. You had Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield and all these much more womanly women. And so they realized they wanted to enhance their stage appearance. So they got inflatable bras. and improved their stage appearance. Chris was going someplace for some event and got on an airplane, and airplane took off, and she thought something was wrong and looked down, and she had turned into Dolly Parton. And so she tried to cover herself up and run in and deflate these things. And so, so these were some of the lunches and some of the stories. But yeah, Chris had, and one summer, she stayed with Lily, and it was while I was taking care of her place. And so on Saturday morning, I get there, and I walk in to the back door into the kitchen, and Chris is standing there. Well, I haven't seen her in a long, long time. And she is in her 60s, I'd say. And she's in gray sweats, which are just hanging on her. I mean, she's really skinny. And she had short, kind of grayish hair, and she looked as old as her mother. Well, I go about my job. I mow the grass and I trim and I clean up some stuff outside. And I come back in, and here down the steps comes this very attractive 50-ish looking lady. Beautiful hair, nice clothes, you know, really dressed nice, a nice tan, and skin that looks like a baby's bottom. And that's when I realized that once celebrities start to age, you have no idea in the world what they look like. Because, I mean, she took 20 years off in an hour. And she would fix me lunch. And boy, did I have some good lunch. So she was between husbands, I think. And so, but spent the summer down there. But usually Lily would fix me breakfast, and Lily's breakfast were like a postcard of breakfast. Her eggs were all perfect. I don't know how she did it. Everything was perfect on the plate. Like I said, it was like a picture that she would set in front of me. And she would slip me hot peppers. And I'm gagging and about to die, and she is laughing. She thought that was, like I said, she had a wild sense of humor. All that sophisticated lady that you would see, so well dressed and all that, there was a crazy little hillbilly girl in there. But, like I said, I loved her dearly. She was a good friend. Now, Dorothy. Like I said, it's a different perspective that I have because they were just always there. Dorothy was very different from the other girls. She was warm, she was gracious, she was friendly. She married Lo Williamson, who's Canadian. Lo Williamson was a World War II bomber pilot in Germany, in Europe, and he flew his 25 missions and survived it. And so he was quite an individual. He was also very wealthy. He had an oil company in Canada, Tiger Oil, and owned large sections of chain restaurants and other businesses. And for his one son's 21st birthday, he got him an airplane, a nice one. And so they were, just money was no object, but they were also incredibly generous. And for some Christian colleges, they built dormitories and gymnasiums and buildings, that they would donate. And so she was, and they also, when my mother and father would visit them in Calgary, Alberta, where they lived, they were always welcome to stay and were well treated. And so they were close. The girls were more my parents' generation than me, and so they were much closer to my parents than us kids. So Dorothy and her husband Lola, they were just simply good people, good, generous people. Now Phyllis, well, Phyllis was different. She was married once and he was a professional fighter, and he apparently brought it home, and they had some really serious rows, and he ended up breaking her jaw, and that was the last straw. But I always said, I'm not sure she lost that fight. He was married, it was Neil Van El, he was a fighter. And for years, she was the social queen of Las Vegas. Her parties were epic. Every celebrity, political person, presidents, politicians would be at their parties. And she would fly in people from Los Angeles, chefs from Los Angeles, like a week ahead of time, to start preparing food for her parties. She had one floor at the Sands Hotel rented all the time for any of her friends. If there was overflow from her house, they could go there and stay on her floor at the Sands Hotel. And but like I said, they were epic parties. And my mother and father were out there. Phyllis asked them to come out and with Lily and her second husband, Jimmy Long, and spend the winter with them rather than endure the horrible winters we have here in Ohio. And so 2 winters they spent out there on, you know, of people in the family. But they did bring some life to this town. They are a great American story. Just three little hillbilly girls and singing in church, and that's how so many celebrities, musicians got started. But it's just a wonderful story, and I just thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
All right, on the agenda today it says open mic, and I thought that meant that I could do a couple of numbers up here. But, then I showed up and they said, no, that's not what that means. And then crossed it off with a permanent marker, so I don't get to do my numbers that I practiced all week. Sorry. But in all seriousness, again, bragging about our volunteers is part of what I do here and what I've done for the last several years. So continuing on that theme, I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but all of a sudden this guy was here and he was doing great things, and we were planning big programs, and he's one of those guys that's hardworking, cheerful, and humble. So it's hard to find a combination of that. But he is going to be stepping in as president of the Historical Society next year, and he has a couple of people to thank, and I know that you want to give him a big round of applause. Greg Powell.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is a really an exceptional event that we've had.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Do I have to eat like that? Well, I'm not going to take much time, but what I'd like to do is just thank special people that helped make this possible. Bill Phillips, thank you for pouring out your heart and telling us your personal things about your wife and your family. Thanks for Don and Joan Boyer for giving us the experience in words on how you were affected by the Boyer Sisters and the McGuire Sisters. Linda, appreciate how you came and showed your experiences and told us about what you did with Linda and how you were affected by her life. Dick, we appreciate your story. I'm not home there. Just thank you for your experiences and your stories. Always fun to hear the inside stuff. And I know you can hear me. Classic Connection, are you back there?
Over here.
Over there. Event, and we enjoyed your music, and it always adds a little extra to a special event. Jay Robinson, appreciate you filming the event. John Warrington, thank you. Thanks for all the volunteers that help prepare food, direct people, put up chairs, take down chairs. And last but not least, thank you everybody for coming and making this a success.
Would you tell a little bit about what you're having December the 5th?
December.
Please?
It's, December 5th is going to be Holly and Ivy. It's an event that's going to be showing everybody inside of the Carnegie Library. We're going to be renovating it and making it a first responder military. So it's going to be to the public, $25 a person. We'll have food. It'll be like snack foods, just mingle, and you'll be able to see what it looks like now. And then we have plans in the back.
Are you having an occasion of any kind?
No,
No?
maybe there'll be some people singing on it.
I just was thinking, like, for couples, it'd be a great place to get together for the holidays, but I don't want to blow it into something bigger than what it
No,
is.
anybody's welcome. Sure, there'll be some, I think they're gonna plan wine, aren't they? Gonna have some wine and finger foods and probably Christmas music, that kind of thing. It'll kind of show you what the inside will be like now and what it will be like after we get it renovated. And stay tuned for upcoming events next year. We got more, we kind of named this like the STAR program. So we pick out people that's made very good achievements, historical achievements in Miamisburg over the years. You know, it could be race cars, clowns, football players, singers, scientists, whatever, you know, kind of plan. Movies, with pastime movies. So it'll be upcoming next year. I'd like to have your support for that too. So just saying that, thank you again for everybody for whatever you put together to come here to support us.
Goodness. Well, what an afternoon, eh? How about another round of applause for our friends at Classic Connection? Round of applause for all of our speakers. And for those of you who got to see these wonderful musical acts, I don't know, give yourselves a round of applause. Now, upcoming events here at the History Center and in town. Of course, Tuesday is Veterans Day, so there will be the usual Veterans Day activities. They'll be out here at the that strange stage area that's right in front of the front door of the Carnegie Building. Then the History Center will be open afterwards, so please come in and help us celebrate our veterans. For those of you who don't know, we started our Veterans Banner program about 3-4 years ago, and initially we were just going to have them out here in the park. I thought that would be really nice, plus the fact that we weren't allowed to put them in the street because apparently the power poles belong to the utility companies and they just wouldn't let us do it. So we have, I think it's a better idea where we have all the banners just right out here behind us in Veterans Memorial Park, and you can walk around, you can actually read it, you can actually look at the picture without worrying about driving up on the curb or someone running into you or crossing the center line or anything like that. So, and at first we thought, you know, we'll have some things out there and then we'll add a few. Well, the first year we sold out all the spots that we had on the poles here in the park. So then it was a matter of, well, we'll have them outside, then we'll have the ones in here, and then we'll rotate them through every year. Well, then that got to be too many, and thankfully our friends with the city, if you've noticed out on our building here, we have 20 going this way and we have 20 more going this way, in addition to being displayed here, in addition to being in the park. So on behalf of the program, thank you so much for supporting veterans as you have and remembering your relatives, your loved ones, your family members, friends, spouses. Thank you so much. And if you haven't had a chance to walk around in the park, we still have possibly a few days of decent weather left before it gets into our Ohio winter season. So take some time to walk out there. And look at that. Looks like the sun might even be out. So that'll be nice. So that's Tuesday, and the History Center will be open. The next event after that is author Andrew Walsh will be here on Monday night, November 17th. And that is a free to the public program. He's the author of Lost Dayton, so we'll be talking about some of the buildings that are still around, some of them that have been lost, some of them that couldn't be saved. Sorry. Oh, he's a wonderful speaker. He knows his stuff for sure. He's really impressive, and his book is very good as well. So, and I imagine you'll have copies of his book. So if you want to buy one right there from the author, that would be good. Again, our holiday event, it's our fundraiser. It's called Holly and Ivy. That will be in the Carnegie Building. The designs are over here by the front entrance off of 5th Street. We are in the stage now of going back and forth with contractors and talking to the city with our architects so that we can get everything designed and get some actual concrete, literally, bids. And then we can start taking bids from actual contractors who are going to put this building together. What we're going to do is restore the building as closely as possible back to 1910 when it opened. And everybody says, okay, let me try it again. We're going to restore the building back to the way it looked in 1910. That's more like it. What a wonderful bunch of people we were. Anyway. So as much as we can, we're gonna, the modifications are gonna be great. It's still gonna be ADA accessible, all that kind of stuff. But we will move all of our veterans, first responders, fire and police exhibits over there. We will have regular programs for veterans, with veterans, by veterans. And it will be a fantastic place. As you know, a lot of veterans suffer with, obviously, PTSD. But issues after they return home, and we want to have a place where if they would like to, they can get together as a group, because you need to talk to someone who's gone through a similar thing in order to really be able to express that. So hopefully we can create that space for these veterans here locally and from out of town if they want to come in and rent the room for a time. But this is really exciting. This is a big deal for Miamisburg. We are going to have one of the few centers that is going to be like this, and thank God our Carnegie Building is still in good shape. It opened in July of 1910, so we're very fortunate that it's going to be, it's still usable. And now the renovation is going to be expensive, but we can get it done. So what we ask you to do is either write a big check or come to Holly and Ivy, or tell 5 people you know about it. Get the word out. That's what we can do. Now, if you're wealthy, great. We'd love to talk to you. Now, on Sunday, December 7th, of course, the holiday parade is December 6th. You don't want to miss that. December 7th is our final event of the year for the Heritage Village, which is down on Lock Street, this direction from here. And that is Christmas at the Tavern. And both buildings on the site will be open, the Kircher Building as well as the Gephardt Tavern from 1811. The events that we have had on that property this year have brought in people from all over the place. Attendance is way up. We have a lot of reenactors and people cooking traditional food and all kinds of stuff this year. So it's really been great. And this will be the capstone of the year. Now, you have a job to do this afternoon. Are you ready? What we want you to do is meander around, eat cookies, have some coffee, tell stories, shake hands. On the other side of the Corn family exhibit here, you can hear that lovely sound of vocal harmonies. We have a wonderful display of the McGuire and Boyer Sisters over here, as well as some of the videos when the Hayride and Arthur Godfrey and Milton Berle and all those places where they sang. And other than that, my friends, thank you so much for being here and supporting the Miamisburg Historical Society. And this is not the last program we're going to do. So please check your social media, talk to your neighbors. We'll let you know when we're doing something else. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for watching Harmonies from the Heartland, celebrating Miamisburg's legendary singing groups, the McGuire Sisters and the Boyer Sisters, with wonderful singing from the Classic Connection Quartet. I've got more videos coming soon, so stay tuned to see what's next. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. And don't forget to like, comment, and hype this video to help others find it. Every bit of support helps the channel grow and keeps these stories coming. I post videos from events, music, and things to do all around Miamisburg and beyond, so come back anytime to see what's new. I'm Miamisburg J, sharing real people, real places, and real stories. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.